Take three distinct sports. One demands bone-crushing tackles in the mud, another relies on soaring spiral passes, a third is built entirely around precisely trapping a ball with your foot. Yet all three of these wildly different rulebooks lay claim to the exact same name, football, and they all orbit around the exact same object. Curious. That's because the impulse to kick, toss, or balance a sphere is a human constant. Long before organized professional leagues, ancient civilizations across the globe were doing exactly this. So how did one universal urge splinter into such contradictory games? The rules of a sport do not exist in a vacuum. They act as a mirror, revealing the specific, practical needs of the societies that designed them. To see this in action, we look at the earliest documented ball game. During the Han Dynasty in ancient China, soldiers and citizens actively practiced a formal kicking discipline that they called Cuju. This diagram shows the physics of Cuju. Participants kicked a leather ball through a silk cloth suspended 9 meters high. This high arcing requirement served a military purpose. It emphasized technical precision and strict discipline, entering the formal training manuals of the Han army. By the 7th century, a new variation of ball play migrated to the imperial courts of ancient Japan. They called it Kemari. Kemari stripped away the military rigidity entirely. There were no winners, no losers, and absolutely no territorial lines to cross. Several people would simply stand in a circle and attempt to keep a deerskin ball aloft without using their hands. The objective was the maintenance of a continuous flow. This cooperative mechanic directly mirrored the values of the Japanese imperial court, which prized grace, etiquette, and social harmony far above physical conquest. By the 19th century, the traditional mob games of rural England began to collide with the new realities of urban factories. A workforce governed by the clock could no longer tolerate festival day riots, leading to a steady suppression of the old, lawless matches in favor of more predictable, scheduled play. The task of civilizing the sport fell to England's elite public schools. Institutions like Eton College set out to write formal rules, but they faced an immediate physical constraint. The students at Eton were largely confined to narrow playing areas bounded by a massive brick wall. You couldn't easily sprint out wide, so the architecture forced a tight, highly condensed game focused almost entirely on kicking and close quarters pushing. Just 80 miles away, the students at Rugby School faced a completely different geographical reality. Rugby boasted expansive, wide-open grass fields. With that much open space available, kicking was no longer the only efficient way to advance. The environment naturally invited players to scoop up the ball and sprint across the turf. Long before any national sports association drafted an official rulebook, the physical boundaries of the schoolyard were already dictating the architecture of the play. In 1863, representatives from 11 clubs gathered at the Freemasons' Tavern in London to fix this exact problem. Their goal was to draft a single, universal code of laws for all football games. They failed. The delegates engaged in fierce debates over whether a player should be allowed to run with the ball in their hands and whether hacking, the intentional kicking of an opponent's shins, should remain legal. When the majority voted to ban both practices, the rugby loyalists walked out, permanently splitting association football from rugby. That fracture rippled outward. The handling rules crossed the Atlantic, directly seeding the early versions of American gridiron football on college campuses. American teams optimized those rules for brute force. The game devolved into mass formations, where huge wedges of bodies slammed into each other to gain a few inches of ground. It was highly effective and routinely lethal. This schematic shows the ultimate mechanical fix. In 1906, the Rules Committee legalized the forward pass as an engineered safety valve. That adjustment shifted the entire geometry of the match. The dense, compacted scrums were traded for the fast-striking aerial sport we recognize today. Meanwhile, similar rule adaptations were happening as acts of cultural rebellion. In Ireland, the codification of Gaelic football sought to preserve indigenous traditions against British sports. Down under, Australian rules football emerged by adapting play to fit the giant circular cricket ovals scattered across the continent. The Victorian impulse to organize and measure everything didn't create one perfect game. It shattered a shared human tradition into a dozen specialized global sports. Today, these sports are hyper-codified, multi-billion-dollar industries driven by high-definition cameras, data analytics, and exacting rulebooks. Yet every complex mechanic on the field today, from an offside trap to a forward pass to a penalty kick, is a direct echo of ancient infantry drills, urban industrial discipline, and the rigid dimensions of English schoolyards. When we sit down to watch a match, we are looking at a living fossil. We are witnessing thousands of years of humanity continuously attempting to organize, measure, and master our physical world.